Firstly, we have this completely illegal police raid and the seizure of lots of constituents' private data. A raid conducted against one of your politicians. If they can do this against me, they could do it against any politicians, including maybe even the politicians that you like. Another deeply disturbing factor that hasn't really been reported properly in the local media about all of this is that I had an absolutely rock-solid, cast-iron public interest disclosure defence to this charge. That defence was based on a set of reports written by my expert witness. We spent a month analysing the data that was disclosed to me concerning the police investigation conducted in 1999 into the activities of the rogue nurse M. That evidence is shocking. The reports of my expert witness are frankly frightening and are utterly damning in every conceivable way of the competency of the States of Jersey police force and of the motivation of the Office of Attorney General. When the public do get to see those expert witness reports, the public will be able to make their own mind up, and people are going to find it very, very disturbing indeed. I hope to publish those reports shortly on my blog, where the public will be able to read them. Why we have to have doubts about the conduct of judicial functions in Jersey is that I was proceeding towards the prosecution on the basis of that defence. When the prosecution received those reports, 3 days later they suddenly decided that that defence would be inadmissible, and the magistrate agreed with them. They did this because they simply had no answer whatsoever to the reports, as the public will be able to see for themselves when they're able to read them. What kind of society runs a respectable, fair judicial system in which, just as soon as an accused person prepares a case that completely annihilates the prosecution argument against him, the authorities overcome this simply by deeming inadmissible the defence case? Certainly no truly free and law-abiding society. The third deeply disturbing characteristic of this whole episode against me is that all of the investigation, arrest, charging and prosecution decisions were made by the former Attorney General, William Balash. Those decisions were not lawful by any measure of law. Any public authority, like a prosecution service, making decisions to prosecute somebody cannot be conflicted. The person making the decision has to be free of personal conflict. That cannot be said of William Balash. Not only are there years of well-documented personal antagonism from him towards me, even more dramatically, in a recent affidavit prepared for me by Graham Power, the former Chief of Police, Mr. Power described exactly activities by William Balash that were attempting to coerce Mr. Power into withdrawing a corruption investigation, and in which Mr. Balash was essentially trying to condemn me and my former partner and persuade the police chief not to take our concerns seriously. Mr. Power, being a man of great honour and integrity, absolutely refused to bow to this. William Balash's final words were to him, "So be it." A few days later, Graham Power was unlawfully suspended. The prosecution actions taken against me are, in effect, a soft assassination, a means of utterly discrediting and damaging me politically, to weaken me, and in order to ensure that there would be a clear run at this forthcoming senatorial election for William Balash's brother, Philip Balash, who was also mentioned in Mr. Power's affidavit. This is the kind of thing that you see occurring in banana republics, not respectable Western democracies. The power of law enforcement and of prosecution is so significant and important to the good functioning of society that modern, mature democracies take absolutely important and fundamental steps to make sure that there can be no political contamination of such decisions. In Jersey, we see the complete opposite. You have a situation where an opposition politician like me can open the door one morning and be met by a squad of 10 police officers who then arrest me, put me in a windowless police cell for 7.5 hours and turn the home over without a search warrant because I allegedly made one public interest disclosure of some controlled data. By way of contrast, we all know it's a matter of public record. You can have a pro-establishment politician like Deputy Sean Power who admits to just stealing private data and causing it to be published, data of no public interest merit. Notwithstanding significant complaints, no action at all has been taken against him. I find it deeply disturbing that the Magistrates' Court and also the Royal Court, who are going to sentence me today, have absolutely refused to even entertain a legal application by me to examine the lawfulness of the conduct of William Balash. It isn't a case that they've allowed that consideration to be examined and they found against me. They simply won't hear it at all. This has got to be a deeply, profoundly worrying state of affairs for any person who's a genuine democrat and any person who understands the importance of the objective, impartial administration of justice. I didn't want to have to do this, but I've been so lobbied by so many people, especially a very significant number of people in recent weeks since Philip Balash declared his candidacy in the forthcoming election. I've been lobbied by many people to be a candidate in that election for all kinds of reasons, but in particular to oppose the hidden agenda of Philip and William Balash to take Jersey down the path of full independence, thus losing us the oversight and protection of the United Kingdom and making this community become even more their personal fiefdom. I've always been of the view that full independence for Jersey was an immensely dangerous step that most people of this community would not want to entertain. I fear, though, that with Philip Balash being a candidate in this election and the deference and the unchallenging obsequiousness afforded to such establishment characters, that hidden agenda will find its way into the political realm without opposition and that the public will sleepwalk into it. I therefore have a public duty to be a candidate in the forthcoming senatorial election, even if only to oppose this dangerous hidden agenda of taking Jersey away from the protections of the United Kingdom. Of course, the great probability is I will be a candidate on the ballot paper, but I will be so from in jail. In jail as a consequence of the corrupt actions of William Balash, Philip Balash's brother. So be it. All I can do is look to the examples of people like Aung San Suu Kyi, Nelson Mandela and Alexander Solzhenitsyn. It's quite absurd and sad in so many ways that Jersey in the year 2011 should be having to observe such a spectacle merely to achieve something like a proper separation of powers and functioning checks and balances, so that an elected member of your parliament can speak out on behalf of his vulnerable constituents who are at risk of danger and are at risk of failures by Jersey's public authorities. Thank you. Yes.
So you're definitely going to stand?
Well, yes, unless they bankrupt me, which they could do quite easily. It's either unless they sentence me to jail for a very long period of time, I think it's over 7 months or something like that, which they could do. Unless they did that, I could still be a candidate. Obviously it would suit their purposes massively if I wasn't physically able to be a part of the election campaign. So obviously it would be a great handicap being in prison, but nevertheless I think the symbolism of it is important. Obviously probably a more politically convenient method for them would be to simply bankrupt me through all of the fines and court costs orders that they've had imposed against me. They could foreclose on those and I would be bankrupted, and if you're bankrupt you can't be a candidate.
So if as far as possible you will do all you can to be a senatorial candidate?
Barring a too long prison sentence or bankruptcy or assassination, I will be a candidate. And assassination is not that unrealistic a prospect.
Any predictions on today's judgment? What do you think is going to happen in there today?
I think it'll be exactly as one expects. Everything will be upheld.
Has the rule of law broken down in Jersey?
Of course it has. The rule of law is utterly broken down. The great problem that Jersey has is that it's only ever kind of grudgingly and cosmetically been a democracy, always over the centuries, and even through the 20th century up to today. The real power in Jersey resides in the Law Officers Department, especially in the Office of Attorney General and in the judiciary. Jersey's judiciary is politicised. If that weren't the case, then this manifestly absurd nonsense would have been thrown out 2 years ago.
Do you think the mainstream media will be reporting that?
Well, they've recorded it. No, I don't think they will.